But like after I started implementing Profit First, like it really took my business and my mindset to the next level. And that was something that was beneficial, not just for me, but also my family. I was actually able to buy a house last year, which was really exciting, especially as a single mom and woman in this day and age and in this economy. And I owe a lot of that to the foundational things that I learned in Profit First.
Welcome to the Profit Answer Man podcast, where business owners learn to scale their profits and cash flow and work less doing it. You built your business to fulfill your dreams and serve your mission. You're the backbone of America, creating the jobs and opportunities that keep our economy moving. And for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. We're Profit First certified. It's the first baby step in a journey we take our clients on, building cash-rich, margin-strong businesses that don't suck the life out of you. Check out the first 13 episodes of the podcast. It's Mike Michalowicz and my review of each chapter of the Profit First book. Around here, we speak cash flow, profit, and practical execution. No accounting jargon, no fluff. Most accountants, they might help you save on taxes, but they'll crush your cash flow and make you look unprofitable. That's not just a poor decision, it's a liability. We help you focus on what you love. And when we partner together, we become a profit center for your business. If we don't deliver a massive ROI on your investment in us, fire us. Want to see how it all works? Watch the video version on YouTube or head over to ProfitComesFirst.com to grab your free copy of the Profit Blueprint book and start making profit a habit. You built this business to serve your mission and your freedom. Let's make sure it pays you back big. If you haven't gotten a copy of my free book, The Profit Blueprint, you can download it at the bottom of our website. Today, we're talking about money leaks hiding in your business and how to finally fix them. My guest is Megan Schwan. She's the CEO of Sidekick Accounting, and she's also a Profit First professional who's helped hundreds of owners turn messy books into clear decisions. We'll unpack why clear financials are the foundation of profit, how to recession-proof with reserves, and the small KPIs that actually move cash forward. If you've ever felt like your P&L says one thing and your bank account says another, this episode will make the math in your money make more sense. Let's meet Megan. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Megan Schwan. It's great to have you join us today.
Thanks, Rocky. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I'm excited to learn from you. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yes. Yeah. I'm Megan, CEO and founder of Sidekick Accounting. We're a virtual accounting firm that offers small business bookkeeping, tax prep, tax planning, and Profit First implementation and business coaching. And we work virtually with our clients. My team's all virtual. We've been in business for almost 12 years now, and it's been an amazing journey. When I'm not doing business, I'm also a solo mom. I have 4 kids and I live in North Central Florida. And I really just fell into being a business owner. So it's been very eye-opening and really great learning how to do business as well as helping others, build successful businesses as well. So it's been fun.
It's always a journey. So you're also Profit First certified.
Yes.
What brought you to Profit First?
So I had actually read Mike's book, or at least part of it. I don't even think I made it through the whole thing when I first read it. When I was like in year maybe 3 or 4 of having my business. And at the time, I liked some of the concepts, but I really couldn't grasp the multiple accounts thing. That was something that really threw me off. So I was very resistant to like embracing it. I did start, though, what we did start implementing with our clients was a tax savings amount and a profit savings amount that we would send with their monthly reports. But it wasn't until about 5 years ago, so a few years after that I heard Mike speak again. And he was just talking about, eradicating entrepreneur poverty and, really working on helping business owners be successful and data driven and profitable and, all of these different pieces that were in alignment with what I was trying to do with my company. And so at that time, I decided to I guess, give it another look. and so I did. And I, as part of the certification process, as you have to implement profit first into your own business. And I think that's super smart. But because for me, it was like, okay, now I got a better understanding of why the multiple accounts are there and what the purpose is and how to lean into that behavior. And I basically was sold after that. So it's been a few years that I've been a certified profit first professional. And I can't imagine not being one because it's so life transformational. Even, speaking from experience with myself and my own business, like I was doing pretty good. But like after I started implementing profit first, like it really took my business and my mindset to the next level. And that was something that was beneficial, not just for me, but also my family. I was actually able to buy a house last year, which was really exciting, especially as a single mom and woman in this day and age and in this economy. And I owe a lot of that to the foundational things that I learned in Profit First. So
I've used the concepts of Profit First my entire adult life.
Okay.
And it's always worked. I've always had multiple bank accounts. Okay. I've always kept my main checking account as low as possible. Like anytime I got extra, I would sweep it out and hide it from myself and put it somewhere else. Because I knew, I didn't know it the way that Mike taught it, but I knew that principle of, hey, when you have excess, you got to kind of put it away. And that's just the way I did things. Yeah. And like you, I use Profit First in my business because we're required to. But I like it because I overspend, believe it or not.
It's easy to do.
It's easy to do. Mm-hmm. And what it does is it shows me when I'm overspending. Like it just gives you the gut punch every single time. Hey, I know you wanted to do X, Y, Z. And honestly, I can afford it. It's not like I can't, but I want to keep my business running lean. And so it gives me that gut punch. Hey, you didn't run lean. And it's surprising how things add up in business. It's a little of this and a little of that. And before you know it, you're spending too much. Right. So it's been good for that. The other thing that's really been helpful for me, we get massive tax bills. And when the tax bill comes, I'm like, ooh, that's a horrible number. And then I go look at my bank account and I go, yeah, there's a lot more in the bank account. So whatever, I'll pay the tax bill. Right. And it just makes it easier to do that and take the stress off of everything, I think. I agree. And it's also allowed me to have massive reserves in the business. So I never have to worry about anything. So it works across all of those types of things. You've worked with a lot of business owners. You see their books. What are the biggest issues you see?
Well, I guess off the top, and I'm sure you've seen this too, is just not having financials, especially when we onboard clients. Like some of these people are very, successful on paper, meaning they're, upper 6 figures, 7 figures, and they don't have any kind of bookkeeping in place. So having your books in order is like the biggest benefit to being a business owner. It's going to save you the most in taxes. It's going to give you the right information off top. So that's definitely one of the biggest things. Some of the other things though that we see is they're not, like you said, running lean or bootstrapping or, just kind of being intentional about where their money is going. So that's why I really like the Profit First implementation process as well, because one of the first steps to that is the expense analysis, where you go through and you look at all the expenses. And I like to always tell my clients, like, make sure every expense has a purpose or an explanation. Like if you can't explain why you're paying for something and it's not giving you an ROI, or you don't have the capacity to take advantage of whatever it is you're paying for, make sure you're cutting that, because you can find so much profitability just by doing that exercise, especially in this day and age of everything subscription based. It's so easy to sign up for something. We've had more than a few people, comment as we're going through this analysis of like, oh, I thought I canceled that. Like that's probably one of the top comments we get from from going through expenses. So it's just like, not paying attention, not knowing where your money is going are some of the biggest pain points. And then probably the other big one is just pricing, like not having a good pricing model in place or business model in place. You can lose a lot of profitability from being inefficient and not having a consistent, process or system with your business. So I like to say Profit First is a money management system. If you want to have a successful business, you got to have all these different systems in place. So not having, some of those systems in place can really be big red flags or pain points for business owners as they're trying to grow.
And everything you talked about is to drive cash flow, drive profit. And if you don't have systems in place to drive profit and cash flow, it's no wonder you're struggling. And I've seen businesses that are in the 8 figures that have these same exact problems. So more revenue, 10 million in revenue is not going to solve the problem.
Right.
All right. What we talked about just now, Will, using things like Profit First, having good books so that you can set profitable pricing, so you can make sure that people aren't stealing from you. You can make sure that those subscriptions got canceled or they didn't hike the price and you didn't notice. And you can make wiser decisions, but you need all of that. And I know a lot of business owners struggle to want or to have bookkeeping. And I don't think they realize how much of a difference it makes is on the tax side. Because if you don't know what your expenses are, you're going to pay a ton of money in taxes. And if you get audited by the IRS, they're going to win.
Yes. Right. In most cases, because the burden of proof is on you, right, as a taxpayer. So if you don't have a good explanation or good documentation in place, even if it is a legitimate business expense, they'll be like, nope. And then you have to defend your position. And how many of us are really prepared for that?
Most people aren't. So once we get all these numbers in place, we've got reasonable books and we've got the Profit First going. What are some of the key metrics that you look at that drive business growth?
Yeah, I think a big piece of the metrics, because there's a metric for everything, right? And so I think that's sometimes the biggest hurdle people have to overcome when it comes to understanding what KPIs to track, because you can have a KPI for pretty much everything. So I like to start real simple. Knowing your baseline. What is your break-even point is a great KPI to understand. How much money do you at minimum need to be bringing in on a weekly or monthly basis as one KPI? Another one too that's real simple is just monitoring where your bank balance is at the end of the month. I feel like if your bank balance isn't increasing or staying steady, if it's always decreasing or if it's going like this, that's a good indicator that something is wrong, right? You're having a cash flow issue or a profitability issue. So some of those real simple metrics can give you some of that insight. Another one is just simply understanding what your profit margins are, your net profit margin, your gross profit margin, what those things are. What do you have left over to monitor so that you can start, understanding, is your pricing that well enough where you have a good gross profit margin? Is it, able to cover all of your other margins? Do you have net profit left over? Which a lot of those things end up, being solved by implementing Profit First. But if you're not doing that, so these are some of the basic ones that I usually recommend people to start with as a baseline KPI to be able to understand. And then of course you got to start thinking about what are the metrics that you need to know as an owner so that things are moving forward. Like really, really know. Like if there was one or two other metrics that you wanted to pull out, what are those things going to be so that you're moving forward? Maybe it's, your deliverable rates or your conversion rates on sales because you need to have more sales coming in. So you can start thinking about some of those other numbers from there.
And all of those are important. The key is to come up with a handful of numbers and focus on the handful.
The handful. Yes.
I know my clients would get overwhelmed if there were too many numbers. And so we really try to knock it down to the smallest, simplest amount of numbers that they can focus on. and have them do that. And
Mhm.
that's a big part of it. How often do you notice business owners pay attention to their balance sheet?
The balance sheet's tough one, right? Because most people have a really hard time understanding, what it's actually telling them. So generally speaking, not a whole lot of people pay attention to that, especially throughout the year, which in a sense makes sense, right? More activities happening on your profit and loss than on your balance sheet. But keeping an eye on both is important because they do tell you different things, right? And so the percentage probably low, maybe like 20% as far as like people that actually pay attention to it. But yeah, it's an important part of it because that's going to show you, like your bank balances. Like I said, that's where one KPI like that one, because it kind of forces you to look at your balance sheet. You can track that KPI. But then, looking at your balances for receivables or your debt balances, those are other things that are important to pay attention to as well.
It is. And I think the other reason that you really need to pay attention is people always say, hey, my P&L says I made money, but I don't have any cash. And
Right.
other times it's like, well, my P&L says I lost money, but I have tons of cash. Why is that? Well, it's because what may have happened is when you made tons of money on your P&L, people didn't pay you. Right? Like you booked the revenue, you sent the invoice, but you didn't get paid.
Right.
And so all your money is in accounts receivable. You became a bank. And then the next month, you don't sell so much because you were so busy delivering last month that you collect all the money and your P&L says you didn't make any money, but your bank account's full.
Yes,
it's because your
true.
accounts receivable all got collected. But it's understanding how these things flow together and how to measure them is what helps these business owners stay on top of it. And I'm surprised you said 20% because I don't think that many people pay attention to their balance sheet. I think a lot less do overall.
Yeah, that's very true. I think ours might be a little bit higher, maybe because we do spend the time going through those reports with our clients. So I think they have a better understanding than the typical business owner. But yes, yeah, it's pretty low.
How often, when you go through these reports with your clients, how often are they surprised by what you're telling them? Meaning, oh, I didn't realize I did that, or I forgot about that, or do they already have a pretty good clarity of what's going on?
Definitely not typically when we first start working with our clients. There's a lot of surprise. I think after we start working with them and they start to get a better handle of what information they can pull from those reports, then they become less surprised. And then to couple that with our Profit First, implementation and coaching services, they start to understand and see those red flags. Like you said, you can tell when that gut punch is happening for you. A lot of our clients start to see areas where there could be red flags before they become red flags as a result of using Profit First, which is why I really like it. Because I just feel like it bridges that gap between your monthly reports and what's happening on a day-to-day basis and makes money tangible and money management tangible for, regular people that otherwise have a hard time with their numbers. That's where I think Profit First is so powerful because it really helps bridge that gap.
It does. And, Mike created the system for people who didn't want to look at their P&L. And I get that. But the reality is,
you need both.
You're going to struggle if you don't look at your P&L. It's just life.
Yes, I agree.
So the other thing that I really love Profit First about is I think it helps to recession-proof the business. What have you found?
Yes, I mean, I agree because, it does help you to start thinking more strategically. It helps you identify those areas or, issues that may come up, like I mentioned. But it also makes you more proactive as well for like where your money's going. So like you mentioned, having reserves set aside, having taxes set aside. Those are some of the big, pain points that a lot of businesses experience. We saw a lot of that during COVID where businesses ended up going under. And I know it wasn't necessarily a recession, but it was like, I felt like it was like a accelerated recession model almost, where it was like this big thing happened really quickly. And the businesses that made it, they made it. And the ones that didn't. And I think that was inevitable either way. just because of, their business model or however they were managing their money. It was just amplified and accelerated. But we saw that, where people ended up going under because they didn't have any reserves set aside, or, they got their tax bills in 2021, for 2020 or 2019 in 2020, and they couldn't afford, those tax payments because they didn't have any money set aside. So I think, it definitely helps recession proof because you're thinking a little bit more strategically and proactively. And if you want to be recession proof, you have to get kind of in the nitty gritty of like what's happening in your business and be really intentional about what's working, what's not working, so that you can make those adjustments. And the quicker you can do that, the better. And the more contingencies you can have, plan for, the better off you'll be when it comes to being in a recession.
And that's one of the reasons that we really try to work with our clients to know their leading KPIs. The P&L, by the time you get it, it's old news. And so we always try to build their dashboard to say, what is a good leading indicator of what's going to happen over the next 60 days? Yeah. So that always gives us the ability to make a change before it's too late to make a change, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Rather than waiting for 3 months after it happened, we can do it 3 months before it happened. Right. And that allows businesses to get through the recession or whatever bad time that, even though there's no recession, a business might be facing their own recession for a variety of reasons that they have to be able to get through it. The other thing that's important, and we've touched on, I know you guys do tax, is tax and entity structure and how important that is to looking at a business. Everyone seems to always want to jump to S-Corps, and they have their place, but I don't think that they are as perfect as everyone thinks there are. There are a lot of pluses and minuses to each entity structure.
Exactly.
What have you found?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And even with the people that implement or elect an S-Corp, a lot of times they're doing it wrong. They're not really leveraging it as the tax benefit that it's meant to be. So having an understanding of not just what tax structures there are, but like what are the compliance pieces, what is the actual strategy behind it, and the why behind it are really important pieces of that as well. Sometimes being a sole proprietor is the best, method, entity structure, or a single member LLC. It really depends on, we like to ask people where they're at in business now, but then also what is their goal for their business? Like, where do they want to get to? Because that piece matters when it comes to entity structure also. And if you're just glossing over it or rushing to be an S-Corp because somebody told you or you saw a reel about it, and not actually having that proactive strategic thinking behind it, a lot of times you can end up spending more money doing something that's going to not save you. You're going to be spending more than you're saving, I guess, essentially in those respects. And same thing, like with a C Corp, you got to understand what are the benefits, but then what are also the requirements for each of the different entity structures, because those things matter. For sure.
And I don't think people realize that, especially if you're a smaller business, the S-Corp comes with a lot more costs because you have to do extra tax returns. You have to actually run payroll for you, the owner, which means you need to have consistent cash to be able to pay yourself payroll. And so these are all the things, and all of that stuff costs extra money. And so I don't think they actually do the math when they talk about it.
Right.
And the other thing they do with S-Corps, what I have found is they tell you you're going to save on Social Security and Medicare, but they seem to forget that Social Security and Medicare have a cap. And the cap is at a certain income level. And if you're above that income level, it doesn't matter. You're not going to save any money. And yet I find even the tax people don't realize that. Or at least they don't promote it in the way they talk to people. So that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah. It's important to do your research on your tax professionals also, because they're not all created equal. And some people are more familiar with businesses, less familiar with businesses. Some people, because taxes have become like this, I guess, commercialized source of income, if you will. Same thing with bookkeeping. Sometimes you can end up with professionals that aren't really professionals. So, do your background, not necessarily background checks, but like do your due diligence, like ask questions. I always encourage people, if you're talking to somebody, like ask a lot of questions. Like if you have to go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm interviewing a bookkeeper, what are some questions I should ask, right? Or tax preparer, just something that you're able to do that and come up with some good questions to hear what their answers are. And you don't have to like know whether the answers are right or wrong, but you can tell if a person is going to be working on your behalf, right? Because that's really what you want, is you want somebody who's going to be in your corner. So having thoughtful questions, not somebody that's rushing to move on, and just get the sale and the signature on the bottom line. Like some of those things you can tell without actually knowing the answers, right? So some of the questions you might be asking, it's how people respond as well is really important. So I always encourage people to do that.
And I think that's a big struggle. Especially with bookkeeping, there is no specific standard.
Right.
And so that creates an issue. B, if the business owner doesn't understand bookkeeping, they don't know how to ask the right questions.
Yes.
And then C, in today's world, you might be dealing with a bookkeeper local, but then everything is outsourced.
Right.
And so where is the actual work being done? And what is the quality of the work being done? Because I've seen really bad books.
Yes.
And I've seen books that are arranged in a way that don't give the business owner the right information to make the right decisions. And so if you don't know what you're doing, it creates a second problem, I think, of getting all of that correctly.
Yep, that's for sure.
What are some of the other issues that seem to come up when you work with business owners?
Well, more recently, I've noticed, because we work with a lot of women and minority-owned businesses. And so a lot of times, these are people that are under-supported and undereducated. So what I've noticed is a lot of mindset struggles. And I'm not woo-woo in any respect, but I do believe the way you think and the way you approach situations matters to what actually ends up happening, right? And how we show up. And so that's something that I've noticed recently. And I don't know if it's just because it's been a weird year for a lot of people, even people that have been in business for a long time, like the sales cycles seem longer and the economy is weird. And there's all this, stuff going on in the world and in the nation and stuff. So I feel like a lot of people are struggling right now with having the confidence that they do know what they're doing. And it's shown in the longevity of their business. If you've made it to 3, 5+ years, that's a huge accomplishment, and you have proof of concept at that point. So it's like, keep going and figure out what adjustments you might need to make, how to be innovative and all of that. But I know it's kind of a different perspective on like what business owners struggle with. But I do see that. I've seen that a lot recently with our clients, where we've had to, really look at the data and say, hey, like you might be feeling this way, but your numbers are telling a different story, like lean into that data, which is why your numbers, whether they're financial or, your KPIs, are so important, because they take the emotion out of it. And sometimes it's hard when you're a heartfelt, mission-driven business owner. You get a little bit stuck up in your feelings sometimes, and you got to rely more on the data in those situations. So that's one of the things we've definitely seen a little bit more of a struggle. And then, too, just not being proactive in general. So avoiding your numbers, avoiding your taxes, not having the conversations, not sitting down with your reports, like all those things really matter, especially if you want to grow and scale your business. Big businesses, they spend a lot of time on their numbers. Like sometimes, quarterly, they spending several days looking at their numbers and their goals and, reassessing their strategies. It's important to take that time as a business owner to work on your business, as they say, and not just in it. You got to make time and room for that. And I think that's one of the big pitfalls business owners experience, is they're not making that time to really work on their business. And it's super important, especially the bigger you get.
I have found even if a business owner spends 15 to 20 minutes a week
Hmm.
working on their business, it makes a dramatic shift
Yes.
in that particular business. So it's not like you got to spend hours and days
Right.
on this.
Right.
A little bit of time thinking through what's going on, making wiser decisions is definitely what's going to be the difference.
Yeah. And you'll be leaps and bounds just by doing that. And setting goals is another thing most people don't. I don't know what the statistic is, but it's like 15% or something like that low of like people that actually set goals and reset their goals. So like if you just spend a little bit of time, like Rocky said, on your goals and your numbers, you'll be leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of other people. And that's what I think makes or break a business in the long run.
And we set our forecast for our clients generally in November for the following
Mhm.
year so that
Mhm.
they know rolling into the new year what the expectations are, where they're going, what it looks like, and so forth.
Yeah.
How do you deal with a lot of business owners not getting back to you with all your questions? Because invariably, there's all these things that aren't, they're a little fuzzy when you're working in the books and you need to get information from them. How do you make sure that they actually get back to you?
So we kind of have like how there's like a collection process on receivables. We have kind of a similar process when it comes to information we need from our clients. So, it's a couple of emails at first, and then it's a phone call, and then it's like hey, we need this so we can give you what you need kind of a thing. So it's just kind of that prodding. And I mean, sometimes, you just have those clients that it's not the top priority for them. So it won't be, their top priority. I guess it's not on their list. And so it won't be something that we'll be able to accomplish. So we've gotten into the process or system that we send out reports, even if we're missing something, just so that it's like a ping on people too, where it's like, hey, we're still missing this, but here's your preliminary reports. Get us the information. We can give you better reports, right? The accurate ones. But we've done that. And sometimes it's, there's nothing you can really do, but we try our best to push people to give us what they need so that we can give them what they need.
I understand that because I'm sometimes yelling at my clients saying, you didn't get the information of the bookkeeper.
Yes.
But
Yep.
hopefully soon.
Hmm.
Well, that's cool. If people would like help with this and they're looking for a bookkeeper, how do they find you?
Best place is probably with my website. You can go to chatwithmeg.com. That'll take you to my website. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram as well. If anybody wants to connect, I'd love to.
Well, cool. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Rocky.
Just another powerful reminder that profit isn't an accident. It does start with clean books, clear pricing, and the discipline to look at your numbers before they look at you and surprise you. We're both profit first professionals. There's lots of us out there. The point is, you've got to find the people to put on your team that will help you understand the numbers. If you need help to take control of your business and finally have profit, cash flow, and peace of mind, that's what I help business owners do every day. Because you don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful, and we'll show you how. Remember, we always focus on the bottom line. Thanks for listening to The Profit Answer Man, where we believe more revenue doesn't mean more profit, and the bottom line is what really matters. If you're ready to stop living check to check, take control of your cash flow, and finally get paid what you're worth, we should talk. We work with 7 and 8 figure businesses and well-funded startups. If you're a smaller business, check out the Profit Blueprint program. It's a do-it-yourself solution that also can come with my direct guidance in the same level we give our one-on-one clients. When you're ready for results, book a discovery call. There's a link in the show notes or at profitcomesfirst.com. You'll be speaking and working directly with me. In the meantime, grab your free copy of the Profit Blueprint at profitcomesfirst.com. It's the next step to turning your business into a consistent cash flow generating machine. If you'd like to dig more into leading yourself, your company, and building the ultimate life, listen to my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we cover these topics in great depth. There's a link in the show notes. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.